All right, strap in, everybody, because today we are taking a deep dive into the absolute whirlwind that is One Piece power scaling.
Ooh, boy.
You know this topic, it's always debated, right? Who is really the strongest in this world of, hamaki and devil fruits? And we found this video. It attempts to rank hundreds, literally hundreds of characters from the absolute weakest to the strongest, the top of the top.
Ambitious.
It's ambitious, and I'm going to be honest with you, some of these rankings had me, scratching my head, but, in a good way. Oh, interesting, I never thought of it that way.
It's a testament to the depth of the world that Oda's created. Right? There's so many different factors that go into gauging strength in One Piece.
Yeah.
It's not as simple as, just pure muscle or who can punch the hardest.
Absolutely, and that's what I love about this video. Right off the bat, it throws us some curveballs. Right at the bottom, dead last, St. Charles, that, pompous celestial dragon.
Oh, wow, the audacity.
Oh, the audacity to rank him last. But also, when you think about it, he's got no devil fruit, he's got no hataki, it's all privilege, zero actual fighting skill.
That's a perfect illustration of how, societal power doesn't always translate to combat strength in the One Piece world. And it's fun to think about, what if he actually had to step into the ring with someone?
Who would win in a fight, St. Charles or the Usopp Pirates?
Now you're talking the Usopp Pirates. Those kids, bless their hearts, they're ranked higher than a celestial dragon.
It's like the video is saying spirit and guts, they count for something, even if you are facing some pretty overwhelming odds.
Absolutely. Remember their fight against Django. They may be playing pretend, but they charged in with a shovel. That's more initiative than Charles has ever shown.
I love that. Speaking of, limitations, we've got Gaiman, forever trapped in that treasure chest.
Cam.
He's got a pistol, decent aim, but mobility's not exactly his forte.
All right, Gaiman's like a perfect reminder that context matters so much in One Piece. Even a skilled individual, they can be held back by circumstances. It makes you think, what if he wasn't trapped in that chest? Could he have become, a renowned sniper or something?
Yeah, that's an alternate timeline I'd want to see. Okay, so let's move past these lower ranks, because the video pretty quickly jumps into, the real meat of it. And they bring up Doriki, that official power ranking system from the Enies Lobby arc. But even the video's okay, this isn't the whole picture.
Right, because Doriki, it only measures raw physical strength. It completely leaves out, devil fruits, hakaki, even, character strategic thinking.
Which is probably why, Oda kind of dropped it as a concept pretty quickly, because in One Piece strength, it's not just about punching hard, it's way more complex than that.
It's a multifaceted thing. So this video, they use Doriki as, a starting point, right? But then they factor in all these other things. Devil fruit potential, how much Haigaki you've mastered, big battles that you've been in, how much you've grown over time. All of that goes into the mix.
And that's where it gets really interesting, because they've divided the characters into tiers. From F, which is the weakest, all the way up to S, which is the absolute monsters, the top of the food chain.
I love the tier system. It's like a visual representation of the power hierarchy, although,
yeah,
there's always going to be room for debate.
Always, yeah. I was looking at some of the placements and I'm Captain Kuro, Don Krieg, those, East Blue baddies, they're ranked lower than I expected.
Right.
Back then, they felt terrifying.
That's the One Piece power creep in action, though. What was considered formidable in East Blue, it pales in comparison to the monsters you encounter on the Grand Line, right?
Oh, yeah.
So the video is trying to, account for that, to judge characters based on their peak and how they'd fare in the current world, in the new world.
It's all relative, isn't it? And speaking of, things that can really change the game, what about devil fruits? Some of those abilities, they're so broken they can completely flip a fight on its head.
Oh, absolutely. Devil fruits, they're the wild card.
Yes.
A well-used devil fruit, it can trump raw strength any day of the week. Look at Sugar. She's ranked incredibly high, despite being a kid, right?
Right.
Her Hobi Hobi no Mai, turning anyone into a toy and erasing them from memory. Absolutely terrifying.
Absolutely terrifying. And Perona with her negative hollows. Doriki wouldn't measure the mental torment that she inflicted on, the Straw Hats.
No way.
It's those unique abilities that make power scaling so much fun, but also so unpredictable.
Yeah, and then you add Hakaki into the mix, which is another layer of complexity, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, devil fruit users who thought they were invincible, they have a whole new challenge to face.
Right. Okay, I am ready to jump into these tiers. I'm dying to see where some of our favorite characters land.
All right, well, let's start with some surprises, shall we? The rankings. They might just challenge a few preconceived notions you have about who's truly strong in this crazy world of One Piece.
Okay, hit me.
Hit you with it.
Yeah, bring it on. Let's uncover these hidden powerhouses.
Right off the bat, this video puts Nami and Chopper surprisingly high up there, especially considering they're often seen as, like, the weakling trio with Usopp.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, hold on a second. But the more I thought about it, the more it kind of made sense. I mean, Nami, her weather tactics, they've taken down some serious opponents. And Chopper, with his rumble ball forms, he's more than just a cute mascot.
Exactly. The video is really highlighting, like, their strategic minds and their adaptability, which, let's face it, in the One Piece world, those can be just as valuable as raw power, sometimes even more so.
It's like brains over brawn in a way, which makes me think of some other characters who I think might be a bit underestimated. Like, what about Buggy and Caesar Clown? Their devil fruit powers are crazy strong on paper, but they never really seem to reach their full potential.
It's almost like they're like cautionary tales, you know? You can have all the power in the world, but if you don't have the brains or the temperament to use it properly, you end up like Buggy, constantly getting blasted into pieces.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked about characters who might be punching below their weight class. Let's talk about someone whose ranking, I think, has really changed drastically over time. Arlong.
Oh, yeah.
He felt unbeatable back in the Arlong Park arc. But now, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a classic case of One Piece power creep, right? Early on, Arlong was a legitimate threat. I mean, he was a ruler of the East Blue. But as the Straw Hats get stronger and, you know, the scale of the Grand Line becomes clear, Arlong's power level, it just doesn't seem as impressive.
It's not that he necessarily got weaker, it's just that everyone else got so much stronger. So where does that leave him in this ranking?
Well, the video puts him at the bottom of B tier. They're acknowledging his past strength, but recognizing that, you know, he wouldn't really stand a chance against the monsters in the higher tiers.
Right.
And it's fun to think about. What if Arlong had actually escaped the East Blue?
Yeah.
And, you know, continued to grow and train? Could he have become a real threat?
Yeah, like an S-tier threat. That's a what if I'd love to see explored.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move up the ladder a bit. What kind of powerhouses are we looking at in A tier?
Okay, this is where the heavy hitters start to emerge. You've got supernovas, powerful marines, even a few of the Yonko commanders sprinkled in there. It's a real mix of, like, established players and up-and-comers who have really proven themselves.
Okay, let's start with the supernovas. I mean, we've got some, like, serious fan favorites in there. X-Drake, the Flying Six. Seeing them in A tier makes sense to me. I mean, they were part of Kaido's crew.
Yeah, absolutely. X-Drake with his ancient Zoan Allosaurus form and the rest of the Flying Six. They were really formidable opponents during the Wano arc. The video places them around, like a Driki of 4,000. Which is interesting because
that's roughly the same level as Rob Lucci back in Eni's lobby. It really shows how much the power scale has shifted since then.
Yeah, I mean, those who were strong in earlier arcs, they might really struggle to keep up in the new world.
It's crazy how much stronger everyone's gotten.
It's the constant evolution of strength in the One Piece world. The bar just keeps getting raised. Yeah. Which is what makes those who reach, like, the upper echelons of A tier so impressive.
Okay, speaking of impressive, we got to talk about those CPO agents. Those guys are always lurking in the shadows, pulling strings, generally being ominous and
strong. So strong.
Right.
The video speculates that the current CPO agents, including Kaku and Jabra, who, as you know, were part of CP9 before the time skip. They're high A tier.
Kaku and Jabra, that's awesome. I mean, they're already tough opponents back in Eni's lobby, so imagine how strong they must be now.
Right. We know they've been training relentlessly, it makes you think. Should they even, like, challenge some of the Yonko commanders at this point?
No, that's a fight I'd want to see. Okay, before we move on to, like, the absolute top tier, there's one more A-tier character I want to touch on. Sentomaru, Vegapunk's bodyguard. He always struck me as someone who shouldn't be messed with.
Oh, Sentomaru is an absolute beast, there's no doubt about it. He's got that incredible physical strength, mastery of Hoki, and, like, unwavering loyalty to Vegapunk. So his placement in A tier, it really solidifies him as, like, one of the world government's top fighters.
Okay, so we've got supernovas, CPO agents, and some serious muscle backing up the world government. A tier is stacked. But that means we're getting close to, like, the pinnacle S tier where the legends reside.
Are you ready to enter the realm of the, like, the untouchable, the almost mythical figures who shape the very fabric of the One Piece world?
I am so ready. Hit me with it. Lay it on me. Who are these S tier titans? Who rules the world of One Piece?
Get ready for some serious name dropping, because in S tier, we find the Straw Hats, or at least You know, the heavy hitters,
Okay.
Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, and Jimmy.
Makes sense. I mean, Luffy's been training like crazy, taking down some incredibly strong opponents. But to see the whole monster trio up there, plus Jinbe with the legends, it's pretty wild.
It shows how much they've all grown since, the beginning of their journey.
Hmm.
I mean, think about it. Luffy's mastered all 3 types of Hageki. Zoro's pushing the limits of swordsmanship. Sanji's speed and strength, they're off the charts. And Jinbei brings his, mastery of fisherman karate to the table. They become forces of nature.
It's hard to believe they started out as that kind of ragtag group back in East Blue, but they're not alone in S tier, are they? Who else joins them in this elite group?
Oh, only some of the most, notorious figures in the One Piece world. We're talking about, the remaining Yonko commanders, few warlords, even a handful of legendary Marines.
Yeah.
These are the characters who can, shift the balance of power with a single action.
Okay, break it down for me. Yonko commanders first. I mean, we talk about Jack, he's an A tier. But his fellow All-Stars, King and Queen, they have DBE to be S tier, right?
Oh, absolutely. King, with his ancient Zoan Pteranodon Devil Fruit and, Mastery of Fire. Queen, with his ancient Zone Brachiosaurus form and that scientific mind of his. I mean, they were the muscle behind Kaido, capable of wreaking havoc on basically anyone who crossed their path.
They were like living weapons. How do they compare to like other Yonko commanders? Katakuri and Smoothie from Big Mom's crew.
Ooh, that's where it gets really interesting. I mean, Katakuri, with his future sight and mochi powers, he pushed Luffy to his absolute limit.
True.
And Smoothie, even though we haven't seen her in action as much, that devil fruit ability to, squeeze the life out of anything, it's terrifying.
Yeah, there's a reason those guys are considered the top dogs under a Yonko. And what about the warlords, I mean? Mihawk, Boa Hancock, Doflamingo. Just hearing their names sends chills down my spine.
I know, right? They've got to be S tier.
Right.
No question about it. Mihawk, the world's strongest swordsman, he's practically a myth come to life. Boa Hancock, with her beauty and, her devil fruit that can turn anyone to stone. Doflamingo, with his mastery of Hashiki and the strings. They were all nightmares to deal with.
It's kind of insane to think that Luffy and the Straw Hats are now on the same level as these guys.
Right.
But we can't talk about S tier without mentioning the Marines, like those legendary Marines who have shaped history. Garp, Sengoku, Akainu, those guys are in a league of their own.
Absolutely. Garp, the hero of the Marines, his fists are said to rival even, Roger's strength. Sengoku, with his mythical Zoan devil fruit that turns him into a giant golden Buddha. And Akainu, the current fleet admiral, with his magma powers that can melt just about anything. These guys are the definition of absolute power.
It's almost overwhelming to try and comprehend their strength, but there has to be a peak, right? Like someone who stands above even these legends, who truly sits on the throne of One Piece power.
Well, that's the million-berry question, isn't it? The one that keeps fans debating endlessly. At the very top of S tier, we find names like Whitebeard, Goldie Roger, and that enigmatic figure, Rox D. Zebek. These guys, they're not just powerful, they're practically mythical figures.
Okay, now we're talking. Whitebeard, the strongest man in the world, whose devil fruit could, shake reality itself. Goldie Roger, the pirate king, whose strength and charisma inspired an entire generation of pirates. And Rox, whose crew included, Whitebeard, Big Mom, Kaido back in the day. It's hard to even fathom that level of power.
I know, it's mind-blowing. I mean, they shaped the world, they left behind legacies that are still felt today. It's hard to compare them directly, but just the fact that they stand at the very pinnacle, it speaks volumes.
So after looking at all of this, what's the ultimate takeaway? What's the lesson about power scaling in One Piece?
I think it's a reminder that strength in One Piece, it goes beyond just raw power or, devil fruit abilities. It's this complex mix of physical strength, Hakiki, strategic thinking, even just the will to fight for what you believe in.
It's about the journey, the growth, the bonds that push these characters to surpass their limits, to achieve what seems impossible.
And just when you think you've got it all figured out, Oda throws a new curveball our way. So here's a thought for you, dear listener. As the world of One Piece continues to evolve, how do you think the power structure will shift? Who will rise, who will fall? Who will claim their place among the legends?
That's a question to keep you pondering, because in One Piece, the journey is just as important as the destination. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of One Piece power scaling. Keep those theories coming, because in this world, anything is possible.